we can edit some of it out, but I'll try and not edit any of it out.
Yeah.
Well, I think first thing is probably an introduction, because not everybody will know you by face, or most likely know you by what is your handle? Actually, what is your handle? What do people look for on Instagram if they're trying to find you? Is it just Rupewrecht?
Yeah, just Rupewrecht on Instagram.
Okay.
JDMpartsrupewrecht on Facebook and the web. But it all, because of the spelling, it all ends up in the same place.
Yeah. I think when I go JDM part, it just immediately comes.
Usually
but
does,
obviously, it depends on mutuals. But fittingly, I suppose you had to be the first guest, given our history, and that you're tolerant of our ideas enough to have trusted us.
I am flattered to be asked.
Yeah, you were by force. We coerced you to come on.
You bribed me with wheel polish.
I did. Yeah. But I think where our relationship started, I was trying to tell PJ when it started. It might have been that Mazda jumpsuit.
Really?
Maybe. Yeah. And I came
I wouldn't
around.
have a clue, to be honest.
Yeah. It was something. I inquired on something, and then I came into your garage, into your Dungeon of Secrets, and the rest was history. And I guess you the whole thing with the podcast as well is to get people that have been around the place for a little while, and it's a weird culture, I think, like the space that we're in the sense that there's so many. I think particularly with Japanese cars, it's like a multi-generational thing.
Oh yeah, look, certainly.
So but you've been across at least a single generation, because fun fact, my little brothers were born when you started. So not to make you feel old, just to make you feel experienced.
No, I am old.
Yeah.
People have no idea.
Yeah, well, but I suppose people need to know what your story is and how it started. So I guess that's the main thing of having you on, is obviously you've helped us in our journey more than anybody. So we're eternally grateful for that. But, that we're a short snippet of it, really, in the long grand scheme of things. So I suppose the question is, how did it start?
Oh, look, hang on, how is it? 25 years ago, I bought a Mazda 323, and someone was importing parts from Japan, and thought, oh, is there anything for my car? And I had a look and like, oh, this is stuff that I want. And so started bringing stuff for that. All the Mazda speed bits back when things were cheap in Japan and nobody wanted it. Then guys in the same car club wanted the same parts, and so I thought, oh yeah, I can do this. I was a graphic designer by day job, and so this was just a hobby, just a fun thing.
Day job.
Yeah, just a fun thing. So, and then MX5 guys discovered me, and it was just a hobby for 15 years, really.
Oh, wow.
Sideline. Then got made redundant from my last full-time job, and was like, oh, well, I'll do the parts thing until I find a real job.
Yeah.
And look, it just made it work, really. I was able to devote so much more time to it, and so that's really what made it. And so now it's been 10 years full-time, I think.
Yeah, wow.
About that.
Crazy. And so, like it was just a personal thing. What was it like? Obviously, this was before. Yeah, definitely before I had a license even. So I think certainly would have had my first car, which ironically would have been a Mazda. Maybe it was a Mazda thing. I think Mazdas were immensely popular in the early 2000s, because I feel like Mazdas were everywhere. Like my brother-in-law had one, I had one. Another good friend of mine, that was first car as well, same thing. Mazdas, MX-6 turbos, when they cost $800.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Early 2000s, they were a popular thing, especially to modify. And the parts were there to modify them. Whereas these days, it's all gone for front-wheel drive stuff. RX-7, MX-5, there's heaps of stuff, but it's all just expensive now.
Yeah.
It's, I say to people that I can't buy it for what I used to sell it for and still make a profit. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Times have changed, I guess. Is it, do you find now things have become not so much harder to source, but like in the sense of things not being as readily available as it was? Because I can only assume that back then it was like a gold mine. You would just jump on Yahoo and it was just good things everywhere, or not really?
the nostalgia thing like there is now wasn't there then, because it was all, 5-year-old parts then. So it was just something used, and so it was cheap. And back then, not many people were doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so it was easy to find. And compared to today, where everybody, man and his dog, imports wheels to sell and flip. So
correct. Yeah. What do you think of that anyway? Like, do you think that that's necessarily good for that, I guess, that micro economy that exists within importing and all that sort of stuff? Do you think it's the more people, the better? It's just like not everybody should have a podcast. But here we are. And I've already been told that not everybody should have their podcast. There are very supportive people I have around me. But, like in the same sense, do you think that it's, if it's not done right, it can be a problem on both ends?
Look, everyone's in it for the money, and I'm no different really. I enjoy what I do, and but it's hard to get good. It's hard to buy it at a justifiable price to on-sell it these days.
Yeah.
Where a lot of guys in it are just in it to make a quick buck, and they don't care.
What
they have a real job, so it's not their livelihood. I suppose that's part of it.
Yeah.
The market's a bit oversaturated, I find, these days, because everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
That's it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. Yeah. I suppose it's one of those things where, like, I've always, even when we started, not to harp on too much about what we're doing, but like even when we started any element, like we've tried and moved away from certain things that we did, like the dry ice, and this originally all that actually started with me and Simon buying and selling cars. And then we moved on to this, and then we moved on to that. And then eventually we found our little niche, I guess, in the space that we're in. And we're grateful that we got here, but sometimes it takes a few goes, right? But ultimately, when you think about how many detailers there are, like you think about how many car detailers there are, you just think, well, if there's, there's probably 10 in 5 kilometre range, quite literally. Look, we have a good friend, Jack Urban, and he's like across the east.
Yeah.
And who knows how many more are tucked behind some of these factories anyway. But the point is, if there's that many detailers, there's got to be that much work, I suppose. But
I don't agree with that. I think it comes down to customer service.
Oh, for sure.
And,
yeah, dude. 100%.
And look, that's what I try and do. I try and go the extra step, and because everyone can just go, "Oh no, sorry, I don't have one of those."
Yeah.
But it'll be like, "Oh, I can find you one."
Yeah.
What do you need? It's
procurement is different to just selling.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that, like, even just within the confines of the stand behind me here, it's like VSKFs.
Sorry.
We'll get there. We've got to warm up before we get there. But in just the space of VSKFs, or any wed serbs, or even courage serbs, almost the same thing. But there is the 5 heavy hitters, and they're becoming a finite resource as well, right? But if you get a set of VSKFs, you can on-sell them pretty easily. And the thing with KFs is, most of the time, I think most of the ones that we see are the A disc type in an 18 by, 8 or 8.5. Put a 3.5 to 4.5 inch lip on it, all of a sudden it becomes really aggressive offset.
Yeah.
Nice wheel. So they're easy to move. And so I feel like getting one of those, here we've got one, can sell it and make a quick buck, like you say, because everybody wants VSKFs. Whereas I think that
no, they don't. They really don't.
Yeah, this is the thing that definitely is going to be a hot topic with I think a lot of guests in the future too, because I guess it's a perfect segue into it. The big question that we're always thinking about is, what do you? And now, obviously, we've got to look across the whole range, because you have tenure in this space. So from staying from the inception to as you sit now, what do you think is the most overrated wheel?
Oh, no, that's hard. Look, everybody's got their own personal taste. And
yeah, but we're talking about your personal taste.
Yeah, but I like all those small weird wheels, so it doesn't count.
Yeah,
like
example.
Yes,
Example.
What is overrated? Look, everyone says TEs are overrated, but they're a good light track focused wheel.
Yeah,
and even I have a set.
Yeah.
So
which I saw you post.
Yeah,
It's massive. What were they?
They were 15. 15, 6.5 and 15.7 plus
Massive.
35 all round, and
Massive.
you can go wider on the back of this thing.
Yeah,
So,
wow. That's impressive. That's impressive.
Can't get the tyres though.
Yeah.
But look, something overrated. I mean, geez. Look, Blitz 03s are the obvious one because they're stupid prices these days.
Yeah.
LMGT ones. I think they're a cool wheel. I do like them, but they're not worth the 20 grand that they're selling for in Japan.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild price, especially for the bigger spec things. Like I think we've got in shot just here. We've got some LMGTs that we're building as well, and I think everybody kind of goes onto that. Most of the time, I think probably 80% of the time, people step up to an 18, and they'll either do a 3-piece conversion, which is not ideal because that wheel obviously has those slots taken off the side of it, like the Mazda Speed ones.
Yeah.
So in saying that, like, when people go up and do a 3-piece conversion hardware, they get all their stuff out of a place called, I can't remember, what are they called? Parts Collective. So Parts Collective do... America. Yeah. So Parts Collective do like titanium hardware, center cap, billeted center caps and all the rest of it. Yeah. So by the time you put together an 18-inch wheel, lips, barrels, machining, hardware, center caps, the whole deal, by the time you're 10 grand deep. So then they get what happens, which we've quite literally seen with one of the sets we polished, which is building a 3-piece conversion, full Parts Collective, get up and everything, you're 10 grand deep. And then they get to the other side of it and they go, I've just spent 10, 15 grand on a set of wheels, because they've also bought them for 6.5 for just faces. Yeah. So then you're like 16, 17, 18, even 20 grand deep in a set of wheels. So then that market all of a sudden becomes a 20 grand wheel, and it's not quite a 20 grand wheel's worth of, I mean, they look good. A big flat 5-spoke, 3-piece thing, and what are you going to do? It obviously looks the business, as do SP1s, as do in any 5-piece, 5-spoke, big wheel, Equipo 5s, whatever it is. They all look good. So I think that it's one of those things where their prices are based on maybe not so much. I think LMGT's probably price is based less on popularity and more what people are investing into them. Blitz 03s, totally agree.
Look, I mean,
totally agree.
If they're the wheel you want,
of course,
fine.
Yeah,
go
who cares? Who cares? Yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's people's preferences. It's what people want to, it's what people want to see. That's what they see, like, the package, and they go, yeah, perfect.
It's like people who like RPF ones. They are the Camry of aftermarket wheels because they're cheap, they're dependable, but everybody's got them. Yeah. And it's like,
you think that's still true though?
Yeah.
Still see a lot of RPF ones? Yeah. I haven't really paid much attention.
It's like, I've got an S2000, I've lowered it, I put RPF ones on. That's the standard package.
That's the standard package. C28.
Oh, no, they're too hard to find and they're too expensive now. Yeah. Because, it depends on your budget.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, it's the wheel budget thing is wild. Like, like you said, Blitz 03s, like, what are we talking about? Like 16, 17 grand we've seen sets for, and yeah, I get it. People spend that sort of money, but I think people try and get back what they put in, and it's never going to happen.
That's fair,
but that's what determines the market.
Yeah,
people kind of want to go there. So anyway, outside of overrated wheels, I guess that's probably one of the bigger topics that we wanted to talk to you about, and naturally segueing on because we have a visual aid. What's going on here? So I think I loosely know the story of how this came about, but I don't think I could go on record and defend you in a court of law and actually tell the story word for word. So the AZ-1, how did we get there?
Showing my age again, I saw one on the Eastern Freeway in 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was heading to TAFE one day, I'm like, what is that doing here? How is that even here?
Yeah.
And look, I assume I knew about it from Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
That's probably the only way.
Yeah.
At the time.
You're going to have to find him. You're going to have to find it. You're going to have to. I'm pretty sure it's either somewhere there or there. Naturally, he's
it must be close because it just stopped. Move the broom.
Meanwhile, You're gonna make more noise than the cricket is. Perfect. This is exactly what you need on the inaugural. You're just gonna have to make motions towards it occasionally. And I think but I feel like there's another one over there, which I had this same issue when I was doing a sound check, and they get incredibly loud. We have a swarm of crickets that live here for whatever reason. I don't even know how they get in. Eastern Freeway, 2000. You saw one.
When was I? Yeah, saw it on the Eastern Freeway and thought, what's it doing here? And then it sort of went out of my mind for years, and because never thought I'd be able to import one or have one.
Yeah.
Because it was just it's one of the dream garage. I want this, this, and this, and that was one of them.
Correct. Yeah.
This one popped up for sale 13 or 14 years ago, I think, in South Australia. It had been there all its life. Customer bought it because it sold within like half an hour. Customer bought it and I got some parts for it because it had a pretty rough life.
Yeah. This particular car?
Yeah.
Right.
And then after 3 or 4 years, he was like, okay, that's right. I said, when he bought it, if you ever want to sell it, let me know.
Yeah.
And eventually that time came for him because, small family and things like that and life. So I bought it off him and road tripped a bunch of mates to South Australia to bring it back, and that was a very dumb idea. I think we got about halfway home and the turbo decided to eat itself.
Oh.
Because it had a spring across the wastegate and stuff, and it was a bit
slapped together.
Yeah. I mean, look, when I picked it up, it was tired. It was blowing smoke.
Yeah.
All the panels were faded, and it had I think it had done 140,000 Ks or something.
Wow.
In
so
that time.
It had lived a bit.
Yeah. Eventually RACV towed it home because they couldn't fix it locally, of course. They were like,
not.
what is
No
this?
chance. Yeah,
What
yeah,
is this? And after that, that was roughly 10 years ago. So it's been new suspension, engine's been rebuilt, bigger turbo, suspension, new bushes, everything. Everything's been done. It's a new car.
So I guess it's probably one of the sort of the only cars that someone like yourself could own anyway, because you'd have to be immensely resourceful to find anything for these, I would imagine.
Look, mechanical stuff is easy because it's all Suzuki mechanicals mostly.
Okay.
Like the front suspension is Suzuki Alto front suspension in the front and the rear. It's the same F6A engine as Cappuccino and Alto works. So, and there's still a big aftermarket support for those in Japan.
How good's that?
Yeah. So, it's all the proprietary stuff like dash panels and the strips around the door edges and stuff. That's all no longer available from Mazda.
Yeah.
And because I've had it for so long, I got a lot of that stuff before it was discontinued. And before they became 25-year eligible in Japan. And so, around the world. And so that meant all the guys in the US started buying them, and all the spares that Mazda had just disappeared.
Yeah, of course, because people would have just been buying them in bulk.
Yeah. And this one came back in 97. A company in Moorabbin or Mulgrave, somewhere around there, they imported Beats and Cappuccinos and AZ-1s, and this was 36 grand to buy back then. 36
grand?
Yeah.
Wow. Back then?
Yeah.
97, 36 grand.
That's more than an MX-5 was back then.
Yeah. So how many did they make?
It's about 4,000 in Japan. They only made them for 1 year, and it came to market after the economy burst over there, so no one bought one because they were more expensive than an MX-5 and less practical.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And was it, back then, was there, were you able to get, I suppose, what is it, those concessions because of the engine size? Because I mean, that's the premise of
it's a K car.
Right?
It's a K car. So look, even though it was a sports car, it was still 64 horsepower and all that sort of stuff. But
and it makes how much now?
101.5 kilowatts.
probably more
at
than
the wheels.
More than my MX-5, which we've proven once before.
Basically triple standard power. So,
that's huge. That's a huge output. 660 or something. What is it?
It is now. It was 657, but it's overboard.
Ooh.
So yes.
Spicy. Fair bit of boost, I'd imagine.
17 pounds.
17 pounds. Yeah. Wow.
Look, it can go more. It'll take more, but it's like, this is enough to kill me.
Of course. Yeah. Like 100 kilowatts. What's it weigh? 600 kilos?
720.
720. Jesus Christ. That's 200 kilos. 240 kilos lighter than the lightest NA6 MX-5 at the same time. So would they actually, funny enough, would have they outperformed MX-5 in metric? 64 horsepower. That's different, I guess. 64 to...
I mean, they say 64 horsepower, but it was probably closer to that at the wheels.
Yeah.
It was quite underrated apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really looked up standard because I don't know how fast it is.
I've seen a lot of best motoring. I don't think I've ever. I've seen quite a bit because there's a guy on YouTube. I can't remember what it is because it's quite literally just like a word salad with some kanji in it, and he's like got every episode from 1990 to 2003.
Wow.
Every single episode, like playlists by year. And I've actually don't think I've ever seen anything on any K cars.
There's a few going around Tsukuba. There's like this and cappuccino and
yeah. So they must have done an episode.
yeah.
They must.
And this was quicker. This is more dangerous to drive, but it's quicker than a cappuccino.
Mini snap oversteer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever tracked it? Would you ever track it?
Yeah, it's been winter.
Oh, you've done with it.
Yeah, it does I think it's a 147 around winter.
Right, okay.
Which
so
is
it's not 2 minutes, which is great.
I mean, I think I was in the lowest class with the like S2000s and GT86s, and it was quicker than them. So
oh right, you're kidding.
Because through the corners, because the track's so much wider.
That's right.
It's easy.
That's exactly.
And that, I mean, that's with semis on it, but even so.
Who cares? You need all the advantage you can get.
Yes. And keeping off the ripple strips because it's light, it's small, and it's easy to bend.
Yeah, because it's mostly plastic.
No, plastic panels, fiberglass panels,
Oh,
bolted to a steel monocoque. So.
And so, can you still get things for like panels and things? For
Yeah,
them?
there's companies still making new aero kits for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is all like genuine, because that's not a standard bar, is it?
No. So the bonnet is Mazda Speed, the front bumper and the engine lid are Specs NFRT. The rear quarter panels are custom. What else? Yeah, everything else is standard panels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all bolts on like a Meccano set.
That's amazing. Like it's such an odd car. Is that maybe why you liked it so much? Because it was so weird. Yeah. What would actually? That's a good question. What outside of this? What would you have gone for? Say an AMX5 Meccano. Say it as well.
No.
Please.
No.
We just want to hear you say it.
Look, if somebody
You could be driving around with your heads.
if I wanted something else, no, definitely not. Actually, this had pop-up headlights as the concept.
Oh, really?
And they got rid of it because it was too heavy and because the front's so short, you damage it. At least there's a bumper in front of an MX-5. There's
yeah, that's right. Roadster.
But if someone...
Miata. Don't call it a Miata.
No,
don't call it a Miata.
It's not a Miata. You're not in the US. It's not a Miata.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We can end the podcast on that. It's not a Miata.
Sorry to all my customers.
Stop calling it a Miata. And I have seen it everywhere. I don't understand when it happened, but it definitely happened in the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Where not even 10. It can't have been 10. Like I only started hearing it in the last 5 years. Where, well, I guess it's the next onslaught of
younger generation.
Teeny Bopper's 10th owner.
Yeah, and it's all on TikTok,
and
TikTok's full of Americans, and they're called Miata. So.
Correct, yeah. And now they shorten it even to Yada.
Do they? Okay.
That's what the hashtag give you all the views.
Well, that's right.
Really?
Hashtag Miata. Well, we tried them recently on one of the posts, and it sank. We're like, hey, we'll use all the Miata hashtags. And look, it was appropriate because it was we polished actually a fifth wheel out of a set that we'd already done. The 5-spoke.
Yeah, I saw those.
And we used all the Miata hashtags, and we're like, oh, this is going to absolutely take off. and got like 800 views. It was a disaster by standards. But look, I think that that is what's going to happen. You're going to have different generations owning different cars. And I think, I don't know if it's one of those things as we, I'm going to inclusive language, as we get older, I think we see that these, like the people, the new custodians of the cars that we idolize, for lack of better words, or enjoyed, let's say, as Japanese car enjoyers, I think we can safely say that they're becoming further detached from the reasons that I think we enjoyed them. But I don't necessarily think that makes it any less of a reason to enjoy them.
Look, I mean, I think with gentlemen of our age, it's more that we couldn't afford them when they were new, but they were the cars that we idolised because they were new cars and popular in overseas media.
Yeah.
Whereas these days, it's I don't know the same connection for the same reasons certainly isn't there.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
Yeah,
I think so too. Like I think as long as you it's almost like any reason that somebody starts an exercise regime, like because they have body image issues or health issues or whatever it may be. Whatever the reason is, it's a good thing to do. Enjoy what you're doing, and I think it's at least still the economy exists for businesses like ours that leverage people's interest in those spaces. Do you find what people are looking for out of Japan has changed?
Not really. It's just that it's harder to find.
Yeah.
But look, mostly wheels. It all comes down to wheels. A lot of people do want the older body kits, like the period correct stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, period correct is a big thing these days.
Yeah.
And that's probably only really in the last 5 years it's come on strong. Like the old kits, wheels, accessories, that sort of stuff. Yeah. And look, a lot of it's just disappeared in Japan. It's been thrown out or been bought by Australians or the US. Everyone blames the US for the prices of things, but the Australians have been doing it for a long time.
No, I feel like we
contributed.
Yeah, I think that we've kind of, I mean, it would be interesting. I don't even know how we would find that data. I mean, I think it's fair to say that your opinion holds a huge weight in it. Like, I think that you would. No, it's true though, because I mean, you've been doing it for how long? So, I mean, you're part of the problem.
Oh, certainly.
You are part of the problem. You're the reason why it's such a bad economy. No, but the thing is that, like if we've been doing it longer, even if we've been doing it at 20% capacity, it's still over 5 years going to be 100% of any other country. Like, I think other countries are buying the cars, that's for sure. But I don't know whether or not and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anybody else would be consuming aftermarket parts at the rate in which the Australian market has for the same amount of time.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, because I mean we've been getting them in. I mean, they surged in popularity massively in the late 90s. Everything came here. Like, I think that the even my Roadster, it's a Roadster, not a Miata, that came in 2004. So this is pretty early on.
Yeah, and
that came in with 25,000 Ks or something. I think it was brand new when it came here. So you'd imagine that those sort of cars, low Ks, have already been bought in at that time in the early 2000s, right? So like there was already MX-5s coming in. Imagine, like, I remember buying an S13 in 2011 or something like that. I bought an S13 for $700, and that was from Imlux. They had it out the front of Imlux. It was $700,
yeah.
And it was a no start car. And then I went there. It was a main fuse. Pulled the fuse out of something, a lower amperage. I pulled the fuse out of something else, started it, drove it home. Unregistered vehicle permit, $700. Wow. So it had already gone to that point. Like, we'd already gotten to 2011 where an S13 was $700, and then that would have definitely been the last time.
Yeah. I mean, look, COVID happened here, and no one could go out to eat, no one could go travel. They all spent money on their cars. The business boomed for me then.
Yeah,
because everyone just went, I can't do anything. I'm going to spend money on my car.
Yeah,
I want all the old stuff. Can you get it? And like, yes, but it's all going up in price because at that point in time, Japan sort of realised that stupid Westerners will pay a lot of money for my old crap.
Correct.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah,
and now today is it's
example, Simon Young, the worst chaser the worst chaser of all time, which is now a really, really nice one. But yeah, you're right. I think it is. I think that is what that the penny dropped. I think at that point, but we'd already been bleeding it dry for so long. I was there 2 years ago, meeting up with some friends over there. Shout out Jeff, and I remember being there going like, hey man, like, I haven't seen, aside from one chaser in their group, which I then later found out that was a rare thing to find. I was like, man, where are all of the chasers? We haven't. They've got a couple of Mark IIs. I mean, when I say a couple, retrospectively speaking, like, in the grand scheme of things, they got, no chasers there. Like I didn't see any. That one trip, I didn't see a single Mark IV Supra. Not one. Plenty of Mark IIIs, which I thought was odd. But not a single Mark IV Supra. Yeah,
look, even when I was back in Japan in 2017, there in the cities, there was nothing.
Yeah.
I saw, I think, one FD cruising through, one of the main suburbs around Tokyo. Yeah. And that was it. It was all out the suburb. Yeah. And that's where it's all gone. It's all hidden.
Yeah.
And I think the same applies today.
Do you think there's been a bigger surge of things coming out? Like, there's a big rush of things coming out of Japan? Like, do you have your finger on do you have the finger on the pulse about that sort of stuff, or are you kind of just in your own lane looking for small wheels? Because I feel like that's what you're doing.
Look, do I follow trends? I don't know. Probably not really.
Yeah. No, I don't think you do. I think you find cool, odd things.
As I
That's your
said,
shtick.
I say to customers, I buy what I like,
Mm.
and then I sell it.
Mm.
You know, I go, this is really cool. I've enjoyed this. I've put it on my car,
Yeah.
whatever, and then can move it on. And,
Yeah.
and look, I buy stuff that I like and things that interest me. And
Yeah.
things I post up on social media. It's stuff that interests me.
Stuff that you would own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think they've, so is it, well, I guess, have you found that the stuff that you are interested in and the stuff that you've typically bought in, there's obviously more scarcity, I'd imagine? Is it fair to say? Or are you still finding it just as easy from the start to find stuff now?
Look, COVID happened and everybody in Japan emptied out their garages because they had time to do it.
Time to do it.
And amazing stuff come up that you probably never see again and hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's just there's a lot of competition to get it these days. And that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Well, problem. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Part of the situation, I guess. Yeah.
You know, if you want it, you'll pay for it. If you don't, so be it.
Yeah. And do you think because there's so many fingers in the pie now that there is a bit of price gouging happening?
Sure. I mean, look, I've been around long enough, and the Miata boys have always accused me of price gouging, but it's always been
Still tight asses.
Yeah. It's always been
Aren't
like,
You're not wrong.
Aren't they? The worst type.
it's look, I post up a hardtop for sale in Japan, and it's going to cost X amount to get here, and the UK guys go, oh, I can buy one of these for a bag of chips and 3 cents, and it's like the market's different everywhere in the world.
3 pence. Yeah.
3 pence. Sorry, yes. Cars over there are cheap and the parts are cheap, but that's just not how Japan is. Japan is its own little microcosm, and things are expensive.
Yeah.
So for anything good, anyway.
Yeah. Do you find the trends have changed for wheel sizes? Like, is your demand for, like, are you starting? Because I've noticed that you've kind of started regressing a little bit, and you've posted GTCs recently, which I think that is very not like you.
Oh, it's funny. I've never been a fan of GTCs. I never used to like them at all. These days, I appreciate them because they're an evolution of Group C wheel, like the Volk Group C.
Yeah.
And so I can, even the new 21C, the raised one. It's the same.
It's
the same wheel.
Same thing.
It's the same wheel. Same
thing.
indent and the spoke. It's
Correct.
the same.
Yeah.
And
it's a timeless thing.
Look, I was around for Sex Spec.
Yeah.
And I've always seen them as a bit of a Sex Spec wheel and a bit too blingy for me.
Yeah.
And that's just personal taste. But
I think, especially with we have a set here that are I can't remember what face they are. You'd think I'd know, being the wheel guy, but the far more aggressive concave faces. Phase two. That's exactly right. Well, you got A disc, this disc, low disc, O disc, face.
No, you talk about work wheels though.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. So I was trying to gloss over that detail to make it seem like I knew more than I did, but you sprung me with your decades of experience. Thanks a bunch for discrediting my credibility.
Anytime.
That's why I've had you on. But I think it's one of those things where, like, that wheel, for example, GTC is definitely popular. We've got 2 sets here right now.
I don't think they ever have not been popular, though, really.
Yeah.
I mean, even from the 2000s onwards, they've always been around.
Yeah.
People have always run them and still run them. So nothing's changed there.
Yeah. It's quite a hassle to get barrels made for them, which we've worked on recently, which has caused Simon quite a bit of distress. But we've managed to get there. But I think, I think those sort of oddball 18s now are becoming more popular as well because of KS and everything being the main thing. I think a lot of
people want to be different. That's a lot of it. A lot more people are willing to take a risk on weird wheels and build them up or find something in the right specs in the first place.
Yeah, of course.
Rear-wheel drive, 18-inch stuff, like 8s and 9s, 8s and a halves, whatever. It's all common in Japan still.
Yeah.
It's if you want anything wider, it's expensive. But
plus 18 by 9 plus 22.
Oh,
9.5.
look-
Sorry, 18 by 9.5 plus 22. Beats everything.
Anything with a GDR offset is expensive.
Yeah. So
No,
that's
it's like
18
it could-
plus 18 plus 12, something like that.
Plus 12, plus 15,
Yeah.
and like a 9, 10, depending
Yeah.
on what's going
Yeah.
on.
One of our very good mutual friends, and now a slave of RSR, has his challenge F0s, and they're a square set of GDR spec.
Yeah.
And I
See,
think,
nobody loves those apart from him.
well, yeah,
The one piece bulk stuff like that, it hasn't had its time in the sun again yet.
yeah.
And
But you'd be surprised to know the last set in a 9.5 set, I think, was sold by V-Spec Performance. I think sold the last set something to the effect of what, 12 grand? I think about 12 grand they sold the set. So I think
I wouldn't necessarily call them the dictators of the market, though.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. No, definitely not. But I think, they've obviously someone's paid that. Do you know what I mean? Or at least come close to paying that, which let's think that people kind of are leaning towards those stranger things. You reckon we can quieten our friend down, Laban? Or what? Just give that little broom a shake, I reckon. And there we go. There we go. That's all it needs.
Box Racing F0 Challenge 18 by 8 plus 38, 18 by 9 plus 45, 5 by 114,
888, 9 grand for a reasonably smaller spec.
I think people are understanding, I guess, of stupid prices like that because it's everywhere, that same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I had Mazda Speed MSO2s on the 323 for probably 10 years, and I did my 2 sets of 17 by 8s and 9s to get the 8s that I needed for my car, and I had a leftover set of 17 by 9s, and that's the nice deep dish, widest size I made, and no one wanted them.
Amazing.
No one wanted them.
Crazy.
And I think I ended up selling them cheap for $500. And these days they're a 10 grand set of wheels.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
It's insane. And
it's unbelievable,
that always pops back into my mind. I just go,
yeah. But that's the thing. I guess that kind of reflects what we were saying earlier, where the way that things have changed since you started to now, where things have evolved in terms of price. So I guess the question I was trying to phrase was whether or not you're seeing more people asking for 18s, or do you think that people are kind of finding alternative sources to yourself because of the reputation that you have in the smaller wheel space?
I do a lot of big wheels. It's just for customers. They'll ask me and I'll go, yeah, cool, let's do this.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily advertise it because, I don't know the market as much. I post up what I like.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's big stuff, but
yeah.
But it also comes down to little wheels, are light,
Yeah.
easy to handle, and
Yeah,
take out of the container.
of course. Yeah, for sure.
It's pure laziness.
Yeah. It's personified laziness. I don't actually like them. They're just easy. Because I suppose you'd get 20% more small wheels into a container than you would into it, like as opposed to a full container, 18s and 19s.
And a 21 or an 18 even with a tire on it, that's 25 kilos
Yeah, correct,
compared to 6.
Yeah, I suppose that's and I guess the other thing that people that probably harp on, you've even gone to the limit of making a shirt about it. 4 by 100. What do you think because this is more of a curiosity thing even for me. What do you think the percentage of, let's say, all of them ever made? Small boys in general, even in the more common things, Star Sharks and for the Miata community, they're going to want to know. The Miata community want to know your dog. 4 by 100 in a percentage of those. What do you think it is?
In the old stuff, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean, they made like 100 sets of Star Sharks, probably in 4 by 100, and that's why they command. I think the last that I sold was $3.5 grand, and they needed a full restore. So, and that was years ago too. People ask for the old stuff like XR4s and Star Sharks and things like that. It just doesn't exist, and it's as a PCD, 4 by 100 didn't really become popular until 1990. This is 114.
114
because it's Suzuki.
And
so Suzuki K-car stuff was 4 by 114. So all the silly little wheels like 14 by 6s, they fit this fine. And these are 6.5 and 7. a stance fitment.
Pretty big fitment. All things considered.
It's more aggressive than I'd like.
Yeah.
But
Well, you haven't taken them off. So
no, I haven't. I haven't taken them off. I always come back to these.
Yeah, you like
it's
them.
had
You like
10 sets of wheels or something like that.
Yeah.
It always ends up with these again.
Yeah.
So,
It looks good. I mean, the fitment's okay. I mean, it works. I mean,
Yeah.
it works. It's not much you can do. Is there much adjustability?
it's got
Suspension
3
wise?
degrees all around. The camber that's
Wow.
maxed out. So
That's all it's got.
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like it has any.
yeah. Oh, from the rear it does. You can really
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. From the rear, I think I've got a rear shot of this thing, and it looks
Yeah.
like it's like this. So, Longchamps ever made in a 4x100?
Yes, but only like I think it's the XR4S,
Which is like a
which is a different spoke, different
yeah,
face.
Yeah,
It's,
yep, yep,
so
yep. Weird.
so simple answer, no.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, you run adapters, you step them up, and
That's what you got to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
Henceforth,
or redrill.
Yeah,
But most of the old wheels don't cater for that, really. So.
correct, because you've got issues with the center bore. So say the
'cause
XR4s that I've got.
Yeah, the center balls, it's all like 70 mil, and
That's
it's
it.
just too big.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So you end up in a situation where you can't actually get the
Hmm.
PCD right without actually doing the whole thing again. So the only way that I would be able to do the Longchamps on mine, or courtesy of yourself actually, would be to completely backfill them and then completely backfill the center bore because it'll notch into the center bore and then CNC the whole face down and then re-drill it. And that's like, just run spacer reductors.
Yeah, exactly.
Time attack cars run
You know,
spacers. Calm down, people.
if you're really hardcore, like some of the AZ-1 guys do, they just re-drill the hubs to a different PCD.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure someone does make 114 hubs for MX-5s.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Some guy in the US years ago, I remember seeing it.
Yeah.
Whether
okay.
it still exists.
Whether
who
or not
knows?
it still exists, yeah, because then that's everything. That's rotor and hub that you need to change.
Yeah.
And I mean, now a well-machined spacer adapter from K-Old Engineering, they're 15 mil deep, like you're losing 15 mil translate into an inch.
I mean, or you go for the Project Kicks ones, and they're 11 mil.
Yeah,
And they're hub-centric.
And there you go. So you're not really losing out that much. I mean, that comes pretty a little bit more than half an inch in lip, but I don't think it matters that much in the grand scheme of things in terms of, what your fitment's going to be like and all that sort of thing. You're doing good. You're doing good. You're trying your best. It's definitely going to be there. I reckon the mic will pick it up, but it is what it is. We'll change the name to...
Just in the credits at the end, just
cricket.
cricket 1, cricket 2.
Guest cricket. It's good. It is what it is. We're going to have to get a fumigator in here. And so what happens next, do you think, long term? This is one of the questions that I've always asked myself, especially from the space that we're in now. Like, obviously, we're dealing pretty heavily with wheels and whatnot. And, we always jokingly say that we didn't even know VSKFs were discontinued. Like, we have, how many do we have in here now? Six faces of VSKFs, like just KFs alone.
But, you can just go down to Bob Jane and buy some more.
The BSAs.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, what do you do? Like, they're around now, and obviously now VSKF's a little bit different. I think those sort of rebirths of VSKF's heritage programs by manufacturers like Nissan, Toyota.
It's smart. I mean, look, even Demon Campers are coming back too.
Yeah.
And they're good fitment for everybody because they're 114 and 100.
Yeah.
But yes, to get to your point, it's a finite resource.
Yeah.
And it's getting expensive, and plenty of people run reps because they just can't afford genuine stuff, and I don't blame them really.
We always kind of go on about how the likelihood of there was a small batch of pre-production Star Sharks that were being sold in marketplace. And I think they were about $800 a corner, obviously manufactured in China, but they were a genuine 3-piece thing. So they were a full 100% reproduction.
Yeah,
and they were available in 4x100.
Yeah.
And $800 a corner, okay, a little over $3,000 by the time you're said and done without tyres. I get it. But they were available in some pretty juicy specs. And I can guarantee on my bottom dollar, as controversial as this may be, and it'll make an excellent snippet, I'm sure, but you would a million times over put faith in something that's been billeted and cast or whatever today in a country that does mass manufacturing like China over a wheel that's 45 years old coming out of Japan, right?
Yes.
One pothole both of them and see what happens.
Yes.
So I would like to see like maybe a little bit like basically what we do. I think I'm happy with obviously the volume in which we're doing it in. It's, shelf after shelf is stacked, which is great for us, obviously. But I think that part of what we enjoy the most is that we are still keeping these things alive. But it is a finite thing.
Yeah.
There's going to be a day when someone buys the last game.
Yeah.
Well, at least the original ones, right? Because now the OGs,
Yes, the
sorry,
OGs,
yeah,
yes.
the OGs.
Yes.
That's right, the OGs. Someone's going to buy the last one, and one day the last one's going to come out of the casting plant, right? So, where do you stand on longevity? Like, what do you think that it's either going to be that you will find that you can command a higher price and it becomes sustainable based on, even though it's maybe more of a scarce thing, the margins within them are going to be higher because of supply and demand? What do you think is going to happen there? The cricket's got plenty to say, apparently.
It does. I don't know.
Yeah, put a mark on the cricket, please.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I think the companies are smart for making new stuff and re-releasing stuff because there is a demand for it. And I don't know. Excellent answer. Yeah, great answer. I'm very helpful there.
So do you think
can you rephrase the question?
Well, I guess that. Well, I mean, I think that. What do you think? Do you find that there's going to be? Do you think there's always going to be a place for businesses like yours in this space as so. Things?
Look, it sounds a bit self-centered to say, but I suppose I see myself as exposing unusual wheels, rare stuff, because I don't do a lot of VSKFs, whatever.
Yeah.
It's all the weird stuff that I find and I like that I'm showing people this still exists. This existed 40 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's still in good sizes that you can use, or it can be rebarreled. But so many people, unless they're really into the history, they just don't know that this exists in the first place.
Correct.
Like these, there's the Senko metal galbolas. There's, I think, 3 or 4 sets known to exist.
Wow.
In this day and age.
Wow.
So that's nothing.
Where's the resource for that sort of stuff? How do you figure that?
Look,
you must be part of some wild Facebook groups.
No, look,
there's got to be some wild Facebook groups.
A lot of it comes down to old websites in Japan, especially Minkara. There's so many old builds on there, and even social media to a certain extent, and blogs on old Japanese websites.
Yeah, because I follow that guy. What's his name? A86 Wheelmaster.
Yeah.
That guy, and he's got heaps of info. Like, he knows what's going on, but I suppose they can read it. Right?
He's got the book. There's a thick book about this stick with that was made in the 80s, I think it was, and it's got every wheel ever produced and like details because it was it wasn't a government thing, but it was like
some sort of incentive to do that. It's a big operation.
It was, and it was all voluntary by manufacturers, and what have you.
Wow.
And that's part of it. There was also gold car top magazines. They put out a parts catalogue every year, every new release, and so they're there, they're an inch thick, and they've got every wheel that was released that year. And
do they have production numbers?
No.
So there's probably a fair amount of assumptions being made.
Yeah, and look, I mean, because I've been doing little wheels for 15 years, 20 years, it's the stuff I look for all the time. I see what comes up and what doesn't come up. And I'll look through the book and go, I've never seen this at all. Yeah. I would like a set. Where do I find them?
So that's how it goes. Yeah. So you look at something you find, and you're like, I want one of them, and then you look for them. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's good. So you would be living a pretty fulfilled life.
Since the price of the book.
It's funny you say that. The books are quite expensive.
Yeah, they would be, because people want to have that. Knowledge is power, right? So I guess people want to have the upper hand on knowing what's what and what it's worth, So I think, I guess those numbers will slowly diminish. But I mean, how many of them? I mean, you've given us a few pretty poor condition wheels in terms of them being pretty bent. So I wonder how many have actually been destroyed over time and how many still exist.
Millions, thousands, hundreds.
Yeah,
it's all gone. Because a lot of it, certainly 80s, 90s, it wasn't popular.
Yeah,
and so it was like, I'll take this to scrap. And so who knows what was melted down in Japan and became new wheels.
Yeah, right. There's cars. Milling down Star Sharks to make VSKFs. Jeez, isn't that a hurtful thing to say? Yeah, so I guess because I've always wondered, right? Because you've obviously do a lot of these small boys, right? And so many of them, it's so wild, and in terms of, some of them are really weird looking. Some of them, obviously, I think that they look cool because I guess I understand the perspective of what they're built for, what styles they suited, because they're not going to suit everything.
No.
Like I think that the designs and the way wheels are back then were wacky because the styling was wacky.
It was a big change. I mean, like the 70s was all, Firebirds and things like that, and then everything became square. And so the massive change sort of from a Star Shark, which was late 77, I think it was, late 70s and all that sort of stuff. And then aero wheels became the thing in the early 80s. And a massive style change.
Yeah.
And it's the amount of Japanese companies that tied up with Italian designers, like big name Japanese designers, and even French fashion designers like the AC Courageous.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it was all about Japan wanted to be like the West and import that culture there, and a lot of it transitioned to wheels. Strangely,
but there's so much of that culture is, like I've always said, if you go to Japan for anything, no matter what it is you're into, it's the best place to go for it. It doesn't matter what you're into. There's going to be some wild community that exists there, like those the rockabilly dudes that are dancing all the time. It's like,
exactly.
It's like you could go there. If you love Elvis, you can go to Japan and you're gonna have a good time. Like Hello Kitty, you go to Japan, you're gonna have a good time. If you like cars, it's no exception. Like cars are obviously, I guess, a big part of their manufacturing economy, and obviously was responsible for a lot of their economic boom during those periods. But ultimately, cars are just one of the millions of things that Japan is wild and wacky for, like, Pokemon cards and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah, so panties from vending machines like you got.
Panties from vending machines like I got. That's correct. He's exposed me, ladies and gentlemen. Turns out
deliberately.
You set that one up. You've been waiting the whole time to say it. It's a shame that they were clean. But I think it's wild and wacky. So I guess that segues perfectly into one of the things that I've been curious to ask, because I think we talk a lot about, personally, myself and I, we talk about either mostly wheels or small niche things, or you'll tease me with some sort of MX-5 part. And I always wondered your interest with cars, as obviously it revolves. So were you primarily a car person before you fell into that? Or you just got the 323 and you're like, hey, I like this thing, and then whatever? Or were you a car person before that?
No, look, I've since a very young age, Matchbox cars, Hot Wheel cars, that sort of stuff. Dad had cars that were always interesting. He had 928S Porsches, first gen RX-7. What else?
You had no choice.
Audi TTs, all sorts of stuff. So it was always something interesting on his side. And Mum had Mazdas, my sister had Mazdas, and that's where the Mazda thing came in for me.
Gotcha.
I think my first car was a 78 Corolla, of all things, and rebuilt that. But then, second car along was the 323, and that's. But even so, I actually was always building model kits, model cars in my teens.
Stuff.
No, it was all American stuff.
American stuff.
Yeah, I was massively into Mustangs, Ford Mustangs, that sort of thing. That
was hot take, people.
That was the
guy likes
that was the dream. Yeah, that was the dream.
Yeah,
and I look at it still is the dream, but it kind of got to the point of spending 20 grand back in 2000s. Like, what do I buy? And do I really want a crappy old Falcon that looks like a Mustang that's terrible to drive?
You said
and it. It's true. It's what it is. Or something modern and Japanese.
Correct.
And that's how I fell into Japanese cars more, with the Corolla and the 323.
So you've obviously got a span of many eras. I think one of the ones that is, it might be as hard of a question as the others, and maybe the cricket can chime in on this one. But what do you think was the best era for cars?
That is a very hard question.
It is. Intentionally.
Look, design-wise, probably the 60s and 70s in Italy. Italian stuff. That's if I read about cars, that's what I read about. That's the stuff that interests me. Look, Japan, obviously, because of the technology and the style at the time, that's a big thing, because this is not an attractive car. It's a fun car. It's a cool car.
Quirky.
It's interesting,
quirky.
But style-wise, it was Italians for that time for me, and but the
Pininfarina and Tony. Yeah.
Concept cars then just
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Look, there's something from every era, except these days I think design's coming back around to being interesting. And a lot of the electric stuff, it's all square edges. It's going back to the 80s in
Yeah.
a certain
Correct.
sense, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Not that I'll be buying an electric car anytime soon.
Yeah.
But,
You're not contra to electric cars.
it's not my thing.
There's the answer. That's 100%
It's-
massive zoom snippet there. Not my thing.
Look, even modern petrol-driven cars leave me a bit
Yeah.
dull because they're so insulated and quiet and
Correct.
comfortable, and it's like that's not what I want in a car these days. whereas
Yeah.
This thing is noisy and
Visceral.
obnoxious
Yeah.
and slow and fun.
Yeah.
And even the 323, it's twice as fast as this, but it's still engaging.
323, twice as fast. What's the go there? That's turbo, obviously.
It's a '96 Mazda 323 Steamer hardtop, so the sedan. But no one remembers because they only sold them here in Japan. That's I've had for a long time.
What motor is
one's-
that? What motor is that?
It's a BP 1.8 motor originally.
Oh, okay.
So same as the MX-5,
MX-5.
turn sideways.
Turn sideways,
Built to 1.9, knife-edged crank, forged pistons, all that sort of stuff. Big build there. GT28 RS turbo.
Big turbo back in the days.
It's funny, when I originally turbocharged it many years ago, had a big TO3, TO4 hybrid on it.
Massive
It was
thing.
like, oh yeah, there'll be a gap in traffic like in 2 seconds up there. And by that time it would have spooled.
Yeah, standing.
It was terrible.
1, 2, 3, talk to the
Yeah. And then, no, it didn't talk to you because it didn't make boost until
It didn't make boost
like
enough to
four and a half
talk-
grand.
It didn't make talk to talk steer
So
on a 205, I'd imagine.
then that got defected, so I went to a standard familiar GTX turbo, which was on,
Yeah, all the time, responsive.
but had no top end. And so look, the Disco Potato is the perfect turbo for it because it pulls quite happily to
Yeah,
7.5.
of course. Yeah.
But yeah, look, that's straight cut third gear, longer ratio fifth LSD,
Oh, you went
polybushed. It was a track car for a short time.
Oh,
and
wow.
So it's a bit solid engine mounts. It's uncomfortable, but
fun.
it's fun.
Yeah.
It makes 200 kilowatts to the front wheels. So,
Wow. At LSD though.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, I mean,
which it overpowers regularly.
yeah, right.
Because it's got so much
What sort of
torque.
LSD then?
It's an M factory,
Oh,
so fancy helical thing.
yeah, wow.
But yeah.
And was that hard to source?
Oh look, no, it wasn't. Because when I got it, there was nothing for it. There was very little for it. Coilovers out of Japan, and that was pretty much it because no one modified them back then. And it became easier the longer it went on, and they got cheaper, and especially in the US because it's all Mazda Protege over there.
Yeah.
So parts became made as people asked for it, and so like the LSD's been in there since, let's say 10 years probably, maybe a little less.
Wow. Survived. Survived long enough. What do you think with that? What's the long term? Like, we're obviously not going to sell it, I'd imagine. Is it going to get a birthday?
It'll never get sold because
Yeah.
it's not worth anything because
Yeah.
no one wants them and
No
no one
one-
cares about them.
yeah.
No one knows what it is.
Yeah.
But look, it's worth a fortune in parts. It's got all the Mazda Speed seats and braces and things. And,
Yeah.
and the engine stuff's probably worth a fortune, but it gets driven once every couple of weeks and boxes put in it, and that's about it really. So it's
amazing.
fine.
It's good though. It's good that you've kept that relationship with that car for a long time. I think that's, even for me, for the longest time, I think now probably getting to the tail end now, I'd say that I've probably had the MX-5. It's starting to become one of the cars I've had the longest. Put that in 2019, so it doesn't seem like that long, but I would
Still
turn,
6 years.
like I'd turn cars 1-2 years, and I'd turn cars. I was just moving through them, but I think now maybe it's an age thing, or maybe I think it's more the sentiment because for example, my brother-in-law, he's had his GDRs, but it's through and through GDR guy, right? You met him, Black Label. He
was nice.
lives and breeds. Yeah, I mean, it's
Not like you at all.
no, yeah, well, we're not related by blood, so obviously, yeah, he's got no genetic. Yeah. But we tend to have him on as well because I think his story is pretty interesting. He's obviously been pretty heavily involved with GDRs in that weird way, like you said before, where there's that it still lingers, that strange infatuation with Western culture in Japan. Like they idolize Western things, and he kind of in that same slither, like I was saying before, where Japan's a culture of extremes. Like he's some weird micro celebrity in the GDR space, but he's had this thing since 2013, and he bought it's 34 GDR, so worth a pretty penny. One of the only cars that kind of didn't really come back down after COVID, and yeah, he bought that. I think 38 and a half or something like that. So he paid very, very little for it, and he lives and breathes that thing. He'll never sell it. He'll die before he sells it. There's no way. And I think I think a lot of people now. I just find that the common theme now is it's very much a popularity contest, and I think people turn cars and build cars in a way to kind of get to have that following where they're misinterpreting the popularity of their car for.
Oh, look, that's fine though. You know, if that's what they want to do, for all internet fame, fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
good for people like you and I.
Yes and no. I mean, but I suppose from my point of view, it's like, well, I've got this.
Yeah.
What would I replace it with though?
Yeah, correct.
You know, that's the hard choice. I mean, if someone asked me, you know, I say a 20V Cosmo, but that's a completely different car. It's like, that's a GT Cruiser.
Yeah.
That is a nightmare of vacuum hoses.
Oh God, yeah. And imagine, because they're twin turbo, right? Twin turbo 20B. Could you imagine? Sequential, yeah. Double, triple complication.
Yes.
So that would be which is, I guess the next thing would be that what would you otherwise outside of? Because I mean, you've very vaguely avoided all the questions like a really fond politician. You haven't really given me an era. You haven't really given me anything. So what would be magic wand? What's the next car? What do you think you'd have?
Look, it probably would be a 20B Cosmo. If this hadn't come along, it would be another Estina. It'd be the hatch, because then I'd have the two cars from the brochure, the burgundy sedan and the sparkle green hatch.
Is that like that weird turquoise?
Yeah, it is.
When you tell me that's the only car, I think because that's the colour.
And that's the colour that survived these days.
Yeah.
But that would, you know, have the big whale tail wing on the back, all the Mazda Speed stuff. And that was the dream before this came along. So look, there's lots of things I'd like to own.
Yeah.
Other K cars.
Yeah.
But I have no need for K cars.
Yeah,
like I'd love a little carry van or even one of the little trucks these days, but it's not. It doesn't suit me as a functional vehicle.
Correct.
And that's what it'd have to be, because you know there's the Beetle and the
that's
Estina
right.
as well.
It's got the Beetle. It's a Beetle. That's right. I've recently found out about that. Yeah.
And you know that will probably get recommissioned at some point in time, so then I can take the Estina off the road and do some stuff to that.
Give it a birthday.
Yes.
Yeah.
But,
well, next time we'll have you bring the Beetle in.
Yeah, but that's the thing, that the Beetle is not necessary for business purposes or drive.
And it's probably not really aligned with the brand per se.
Oh, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's whatever. This is my brand. I'll do it. I'll do
whatever I want, Mum.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're not my real mum.
But no, look, you're right though. It doesn't. I mean, this is perfect for business. But,
of course.
A 63 Beetle that's satin black is not.
Yeah, correct.
And that's fine.
Yeah, we had quite a few people suggest we get a K-van before we got our Mercedes, And
K-vans are cool, but they don't hold much.
No, well, what am I going to put in there?
Yeah.
I'd only get one set of VSKFs in. And then we'd go broke, because we need to have more than one set of VSKFs at any given time.
Can't even pull the tyres off.
Can't even pull the tyres off. That's right. It'd be too much. I mean, I guess, outside of what you've obviously spoken about relative to where the market is and what things are like, I guess it seems like it's pretty stable, and it seems like it's going to keep going for a little while longer at the very least. And I think whatever's here, people are still going to have an interest in restoring them and keeping them on the road. And I think
for sure. I mean,
we'll be all right.
We'll be all right. If you want it that badly, you'll find a way. You'll find the money to buy something stupid from Japan, because that's what you want.
Love buying stupid stuff out of Japan. It's great.
And
VSKFs. Definitely love VSKFs. I think that's pretty much covered off most of the stuff I wanted to talk about, unless, of course, you had something you wanted to digress on. But I think we've had a pretty good crack at the first one. I've lost track of time. There you go. Perfect. We've done it. Absolutely fantastic. Well, anyway, I guess this is the first of many. I think we'll definitely like to have you back on if you
Cool.
are so willing to
Sure.
do so. Maybe bring another backdrop next time.
No.
No. This is all you're getting. This is as good as it gets.
We'll turn it around.
Yeah, we'll just put it the other way around. It's fine. We can just lift it up and turn it around. But look, thanks so much for obviously coming and being part of it for the first time. And I think we'll get better at this as we get on. But I think it's been a pretty good conversation. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed having you on. So thanks a bunch for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We'll have you back on soon enough.
Awesome.
Perfect.